Yeah, so we know that the Trump administration, the White House, gets to pick the governors on the Fed's Board of Governors in Washington, including a potential replacement for Jerome Powell as Fed chair next year. And so, what we're looking at here is the administration potentially trying to figure out ways to exert influence over the 12 regional Fed banks that comprise the rest of the Federal Reserve System as well. So the Federal Open Market Committee that is responsible for setting interest rates is comprised of 7 governors on the board in Washington, plus 5 of the 12 presidents of the regional Fed banks. And they historically have been seen as sort of outside of the realm of influence from Washington because the president doesn't appoint those presidents. And they are selected by sort of a separate process that comes out of those regional Fed districts themselves. And so if the White House finds a way to extend its influence over that process as well, it could give it a much more direct ability to control interest rate decisions on the broader Federal Open Market Committee.
But what does extending influence to that process mean in concrete terms? Will they be in a voting position capacity, or will they have to approve whatever the Fed decides? What does that look like?
Yeah, so there's 2 separate things going on here. Our reporting in this story suggests that they're really trying to figure out how they can have some influence over the selection process of these presidents of these regional Fed banks, because the criticism from Trump world is that, this is a rather opaque process. It's not like selections for the Fed's Board of Governors in Washington, where the president appoints someone and then it's confirmed by the Senate and goes through all of the vetting that is associated with that sort of process. And so the idea is that, something potentially needs to be done about this. Now, the reason why everybody is sort of talking about this the last 24 hours is because one significant aspect of the Fed's Board of Governors that would allow the White House to immediately extend its control over the rest of the system, and in particular the regional Feds, is that the Fed's Board of Governors every 5 years has a vote to reauthorize the Fed presidents in their positions. In February, exactly. And so the idea is that if Trump is able to secure a majority on the Fed's Board of Governors, which he does not have now, but could have if he's successful in removing Cook from her position, then that brings the question of this reauthorization vote in February, which is usually just a pro forma rubber stamping kind of matter. It brings that into question.
So let's look at this in the context, and you mentioned Fed Governor Lisa Cook, but let's look at this story in the context of the pressure that the Trump administration has put on Fed Governor Lisa Cook, going as far as last night saying he's moving to fire her. Her lawyer is pushing back now, saying that she will sue the Trump administration to keep her job. Also, the Federal Reserve Board saying that it will abide by any court decision. So that's where things stand. What is this story in the context of a president that wants to exert more control over who is on the board of the Federal Reserve?
Well, I mean, the court case that is now coming between Lisa Cook and the White House is going to be really critical in this regard, because if she is successful in staying in her role, then it kind of makes this question of the White House's ability to influence the regional Fed banks a little bit more of a distant concern, because they won't have that majority on the Fed board. This reauthorization vote in February won't be in play. And so that's why so much is riding on how this legal battle between Cook and the White House plays out. Now, there are a lot of people who seem skeptical that the White House really has a solid case here in trying to remove her. On the other hand, there are all these questions now about mortgage fraud, the allegations that were made against her that are swirling around. And so you could see a couple scenarios where we're basically proceeding along these 2 parallel tracks, where we're trying to answer the question, A, did Lisa Cook commit mortgage fraud? And B, how is this separate legal battle about Trump trying to remove her going to play out, and whether he has cause to do so?
We just spoke to Catherine Judge over at Columbia Law School, and she said she does think that this will go to the Supreme Court. And she also said intent really matters in a situation such as this. And to me, it sounds like, and look, I know you're a reporter and editor on the U.S. economy team and you cover the Federal Reserve, but as a legal matter, this stuff could move pretty slowly.
Yeah, absolutely. And then there's, even another question of how quickly Trump can get people in to replace some of these governors. So, Fed Governor Adriana Kugler stepped down abruptly earlier this month. Trump said he was going to nominate Stephen Miran, the chief of the Council of Economic Advisors, to replace her. And, the question is, can he get Miran into that seat, A, in time for the September meeting, B, if not, in time for the October meeting? And then separately, is this now unfolding legal situation with Lisa Cook going to influence perhaps the Senate's views on the confirmability of Miran? So there's like so many things that are just kind of unfolding here that are making this story, kind of spread out in different directions.
It was Wall Street Journal who reported that Trump is weighing quickly to announce a nominee, and you're right, it's Stephen Miran, but the other is David Malpass, who's World Bank Group president. Is he a viable candidate? Was he a name tossed around in your reporting?
Yeah, he's someone who has come up as a possible candidate as Fed chair to replace Jerome Powell. So he's on the list of 11 names that we've reported. So that's an interesting story in its own right. Now, the Wall Street Journal story suggested that Trump was going to try to move quickly to fill Cook's seat, potentially with Malpass, potentially with someone else. Obviously, that raises a separate question of, can he fill that seat if Cook is currently engaged in a legal battle to keep the seat? How does that even work? So that's another thing that I think we're all going to be trying to figure out.